like to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters and Lecturer Kai for giving me this opportunity to fill in. Okay, so I mean, we just completed a Dharma class, and so that's really, it really is the first step on this journey of cultivation. Okay, I mean, some of us, we may think that, oh, we're already cultivating, and maybe we were doing that before we received the Tao, but it's probably a different idea of what cultivation is. Once after we receive the Tao, we know some more things about, oh, what it really means to cultivate and all that. And so, during the Dharma class, you get a good view of what understanding what the meaning of life is, and that we have a purpose. There is a purpose. Okay, so once we realize that purpose, and then just like at the end of the Dharma class, then we do the awakening to the vows, cultivation. Faith, vows, cultivation, realization. Okay, so that is kind of like this for making a firm step, right? When we take a vow, it's kind of serious. I mean. But it's establishing a goal, establishing an objective for us to continue on this path. So this topic, I guess, is kind of talks about that. But learning about the Tao, the cultivating, and then actually, the propagating or helping propagate the Tao. Okay, let me see. Maybe I use these slides here. Okay, so that's what, yeah. So how to implement learning, cultivation, teaching, propagation, and practice of Tao. Okay, it's a mouthful, but all right, let's see. Okay, so these are words from our 18th patriarch. Okay, we all remember the 18th patriarch. Okay, so it says, the more we learn Tao, the more harmonious we become. The more we cultivate the Tao, the more joyful we become. Okay, if we truly understand cultivation and its meaning and purpose, because a lot of times we think, oh, cultivation, when we first hear about it, it's like, oh, we have to discipline and all that stuff and a lot of things you can't do. And then so we have kind of a negative view of that. But actually, once you start cultivating and you learn, what the meaning is, then you realize that, yeah, it should be joyful when you cultivate. It's not like, oh, really difficult. And so a lot of that, because our view originally is kind of external view. When we look at things from the external side, we look at it as very difficult. Oh, I have to give up these things. I can't have these things. But the internal view, it's like really, we really trying to understand our Buddha nature, our true self, okay, our true nature. And once we can understand it and we follow it, then it's actually seems like it should be very natural, very joyful. Okay, so it's like I'm having to give up things. Okay, so the more we teach the Tao, the more we are immersed in its essence or true principles. The more we propagate the Tao, the more momentous opportunities there are, or turning points of our lives. It's not just, learning is part of it, right? So once we learn, we need to, of course, make use of it, practice, implement it. Okay, so once, the teaching, okay, so it says here about the teaching of the Tao. For those, everyone can teach. We don't have to be like very knowledgeable. Teaching in a broad sense means like, we can talk to people about the Tao, okay, at least what we know, maybe through our own experience. We can talk to people about that. But if we want to get into more, knowledgeable stuff, as we teach, we definitely have to learn, okay? And so we become, the more we get into that, we get closer to that essence, to that truth, okay? And then as we actually go out and try to, talk to people about the Tao and propagate the Tao, then that really opens up these avenues of opportunity for us, okay? I don't mean opportunities to get rich or anything like that, okay? It's opportunities for us to improve ourselves, to elevate ourselves, and, to further progress along that path of cultivation and towards that ultimate enlightenment, okay? So The more, of course, the more we do, the more we propagate, the more, we're accumulating merits, okay? And probably also, as we cultivate, we're working on improving or developing our virtues. So these are things that can help us reduce our karmic debts. And so when we do that, right, because a lot of times we are obstructed by karmic debts, for one, and the other obstructions are our own, of our own making, like through our ego, our sense of biases, or stubbornness, any attachments, things like that. Those are, so as we do more, we learn more, do more, then we can overcome those, okay, obstacles. Right. And then so the more we practice Tao, the more we are in harmony with the rules and regulations, right? So when we come to the temple, of course, there are rules. There are the way that things are done, things that we have to do. At first, of course, it's very foreign. It's like, oh, this, is very different. But the more we do it, and it becomes natural as well. Okay, so and of course, it's important to understand why we do these things. But ultimately, this is the way that we practice, and so then we become more in more harmony with those rules and regulations. And it's just natural that we do it. That's something that we have to get used to. So that's why it's important to come back to be in the temple, frequently, so that you get used to it, right? Because if you only come like once a month or even less frequent, then every time it's like something, it's you got to start over, and then you feel like this is kind of why am I doing this? But if you come regularly, then you do it like the bowing, all that regularly, then it's very natural. And ultimately, it's really we talk about like having it become second nature. It's really first nature. I mean, it's second nature is because our view is that, oh, this is not natural from the beginning, but it really is. It's supposed to be. It comes very naturally. It's just that we are so used to not doing it that we think it's unnatural. But so yeah. And there are actually many benefits, and there's actually reasons why we do these proprieties. So among them is to develop our virtues. Being humble, right? Showing humility, showing respect, all these things, and do self-reflection. Okay. All right. Let's see. Obviously, this all kind of starts with receiving the Tao. So we have to accept what this Tao is. So the Tao can transform our temperament, our character. It can open up our wisdom. It changes our fate and reshapes our destiny. Okay, it bestows favor and grace to our descendants, ancestors. It allows us to avoid calamities and escape danger. And ultimately, the real ultimate goal is to transcend samsara, or the cycle of reincarnation. Okay, so right, these are kind of the benefits of receiving the Tao. Right, our character. We are born with everyone's born with different character, different temperaments. Okay, and those are part of the qi. I don't know what you call how you would describe that, but it's it's. But anyways, yeah. I mean, so those are things. It's not random either. I mean, it's not. Those are accumulated over lifetimes. Okay, so if we have a certain propensity in this lifetime to maybe to get angry, that's developed over many lifetimes. It's not just this lifetime. All right. So, but we can certainly change that. All right. So we have to first realize that we have. There's something that we need to change, okay, in ourselves that we change. But, as we understand the Tao more, as we practice more, I think that will allow us to be, to help us in that area, to change our temperament, okay? So we learn, to not get angry when, there's different ways to do that. Take a deep breath, etc. But ultimately to realize that, it's all in our mindset that we have to change our mindset. Okay, so we are always dealing with the world in a kind of in a subject object in a dualistic way, that we're dealing with the outside, but ultimately, if we can always self-reflect, like look within, then a lot of times we can kind of correct ourselves or not get into these situations where we get angry and things like that. All right. The other thing is opening up our wisdom, right? We always say receiving the Tao is opening up our wisdom eye, right? And so we have that wisdom. That wisdom is inherent in every one of us. So the Buddhas, when they channel and they speak these words of wisdom and they compose these poems, we all have that ability, actually. Okay, it's just it's not revealed. Okay, because we have all these so many lifetimes of accumulated attachments and biases and desires, all these things that prevent that wisdom from manifesting itself. That wisdom is also it's an awareness. Okay, it's you can say mindfulness awareness. Okay, so that is part of that what we call this wisdom. Okay, so that sometimes we talk about like a sixth sense, right? The sixth sense. Yeah, that's what that is. All right. So the clearer our mind, the more we cultivate, the fewer attachments we have, the fewer desires, all that, then that wisdom will naturally reveal itself, manifest itself. All right. And then, of course, changing our fate and reshaping our destiny, that's true because, again, as we cultivate, as we improve ourselves, right, get better, and we performing merits, then we're paying off our karmic debts. When we pay off our karmic debts, then, of course, it's the reason why we have accidents, the reason why we get sick. I'm talking about kind of serious illnesses. Is because of karma. And so the more merit we perform, of course, that will change that. That'll reduce the karmic debts. And then so we won't have as many of those, accidents or things like that, right? And then so that then also, avoiding calamities and escaping danger. Okay, similar thing. The Buddhas are helping us. Okay. As long as we're sincere, we cultivate sincerely, and we, so they can protect us, and that's where also the vows, help as well. When we have these vows, we're making a promise, okay? Not of course to God, to the Buddhas, to ourselves too, that we want to improve, right? We want to do better, and we want to. So of course they will also help. The Buddhas will help us, right? And then we always say that when we receive the Tao, of course, our descendants, our ancestors and descendants all benefit. Okay, even though they may not have received the Tao, but as long as we are sincerely cultivating, we are doing our best, then they will not be suffering as much. Okay, and so wherever they are, if they're like in the underworld, then they can also listen to the Dharma. Spoken by a Buddha. Okay, so and then actually they'll be here too in class. If we come to class, then they are also able to listen to class. Okay, so they are definitely very grateful for us having received the Tao and coming and cultivating. Okay.
And it's 9 generations for those 7 generations.
Yeah, well, that's how it's said. It's not exactly clear exactly. There's another different way that it's explained, but yeah. So ultimately we if we do well, if we do our best in this life, right, we have the chance to transcend and attain sainthood or Buddhahood even in this one lifetime. Okay. Buddhahood might be kind of too high of a goal for us because we're not. The patriarch, matriarch, and some of the predecessors, they've achieved that level. But maybe for us, becoming a saint is good enough, I think. but it's something to strive for. Okay, it's a worthwhile goal. Let's put it that way. All right, because once we become reach that level, then we don't have to come back because of karma. Okay, so we can come back of our own choice to help sentient beings. Yeah, that's the best way. All right. Okay. Okay. So how do we learn and cultivate the Tao? Okay. So of course we come to classes. It's important to, because the Tao, I mean, there's a lot of information out there, like you can go on the internet, but it's, like the Buddhist literature, okay, or any religious literature is out there, but in terms of the Tao literature, there's, at least in English, there's very few, okay, there's very little out there. And even we don't have very much of it. So it's kind of a lot, we have to kind of read ourselves and then trying to translate or something like that. So that's why it's important to come to class here to learn about those things that you can't really find out on the internet, okay? And we have to study carefully, okay, the Tao classics, okay, or the sutras. The Tao it's the essence of all the religions, okay, all the religious teachings, as I say. And so if we go in and try to study any of the religious teachings, if we do it with the right mindset, then we can see that the Tao is there. Okay, if we're just looking at the surface, we're not going to see it. Okay, so most people in religions, they're really just looking at the surface, and so when you look at the surface, they all look different. Right, all the scriptures from the different religions, they all look different, and so, but we're once we receive the Tao, we kind of are trying to get to that essence, to the root. Okay, so that is where there's a difference. Okay, so the way we look at these teachings or the scriptures from these various religions, we look at it kind of differently. Okay, than from most people. All right, so but we're trying to get to the ultimate truth. All right, and then so. Of course, we come to temples regularly. Okay, we want to set up our own cultivation path. So obviously, we don't, force you to take a vow. Okay, that's it has to come from your own will to do that. Okay, so and because everyone's karma is different, everyone's situation is different. We can't say you can't really say, there's really no like one size fits all in terms of like, oh, this is the method, or you follow these exact steps that everyone can follow. It's hard to say that, generalize it like that. Okay, so, but that's why it's important to learn the principles, right? Once we learn the principles, just like, for example, vegetarian, okay, the principle of non-killing, okay, that's one of the precepts. How we apply that then is, it might depend on our situation, okay? And that's where the wisdom comes in, right? How we apply the principles to every situation, right? It's impossible to list every possible situation. Oh, this is exactly what you do in this situation, etc. Right? So the principles are kind of, you can say they're absolute, okay, but you can say they're broad too, and that they can apply to any situation. All right, so that's where we need to have that wisdom to be able to apply it to every situation. All right, and we shouldn't be so too like fixated on say, oh, it has to be done this way, right? Then you encounter a different situation and it may not apply, or it may be inappropriate for that situation. So that's why we have to be careful. Okay. So just like, so I mentioned the vegetarian, right? So if you encounter a situation where there's either you have a dish that's you ask for a vegetarian dish, but then it has meat or it has something in there that you can't eat because you made the vow, what do? Right? Yeah, what do you do, right? Yeah, so you can, one option is, I can't eat this, you send it back, or you throw it, whatever, you toss it, but then you're wasting, okay? The other, well, what can this happened to me once. I was at the airport, right? I getting lunch, there's like this vendor that's selling like pasta. Okay, so I ordered a pasta and I said, don't put garlic on it, okay, because I saw that they were sprinkling garlic on stuff. So I said, don't put it on there. When I got it, I saw, whoa, there's garlic on here. It's all these minced garlic, right? It's all spread on top. So, yeah, I didn't use my wisdom. Okay, so I sent it back. I sent it back and said, wait a minute, I didn't order this. I said no garlic. And I saw that they threw it out. And I felt bad about that because it was a waste of the food. They made another one to replace it. But, I thought about that afterwards. I said, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just picked a side, try to do my best to get rid of the garlic and then just eat the pasta. In that situation, did I break my vow? I mean, if I were to do that, no. You do your best in a situation. So there's another example with our grand predecessor. Okay, so they were on an airplane. I don't know if they I guess maybe they ordered the vegetarian meal, but then they didn't have it on board, and so they were all offered meal with meat. Okay, but they all taken. So besides the grand predecessor, he has a whole entourage of like transmitters and other lectures and things like that with him, and so they all got the same thing, and they're wondering what should they do. So they obviously you look up to the grand predecessor. What's he going to do? And so the grand predecessor, without thinking, right, he just, okay, there's his meat, he just move it aside, and then there's rice over there, so he's just starting to eat the rice. Okay, so then after, people saw that, oh, okay, so they know what to do. But, okay, so there's a difference between what the grand predecessor did and what the other people did. The other people, they all did the same thing, they didn't eat the meat. But the grand predecessor, it was very natural for him. He just said, oh, he didn't have to say, oh, should I eat this or not, or should I send this back? No, it's very natural. Okay, so he uses wisdom, right? And so the other people, they had to think about it, and which is not. We shouldn't. I mean, we depend too much on our conscious thoughts, thinking, and when we do that, the wisdom doesn't come out. Okay, so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you would say that the Buddhas would know that even though you move the meat aside, it's the thought that counts, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not right. So
even though there's still technically the meat, you moved it aside.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, in that case, obviously the meat goes to waste. Okay, but yeah, you didn't intend to eat it. Okay, so, but there's like the gravy or whatever it's mixed with the rice. But the thing is that once we have to think about it, then it's not exactly, we're not following our Buddha nature. Okay, so we're still using this mind to try to differentiate or say, what should I do? But basically, yeah, there is no. I can't say there's an absolute right or wrong answer. Okay, so ultimately, of course, we still bear the consequences. Whatever it is. There may still be some amount of karma in that. Okay, but
this also happened to me many years ago. So what I did was I didn't open my food. Usually it's a foil on top. I didn't even touch it. So I just asked the stewardess, what do they call them? Flight attendant.
yeah.
So I said, I'm a vegetarian. I order vegetarian food. Do you have any extra buns or extra salads that I can have? So she gathered some buns and salad for Ryan and me. So that's what we ate.
Yeah.
It's up to you what you want to do.
Yeah.
And technically, once you in that situation in the restaurant, never return the food. If you return it, you'll be eating the same thing and other things. So try to do what lecture time said. Move it on the side without thoughts, but do not send it back.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't get into an argument with. I mean, because then you're creating other karma from doing that. So we don't want to get into that situation. Yeah.
We know Shakyamuni Buddha, he is definitely against killing. But when the monks and his followers, what they usually went out to beg for food, right? And in one of the situations, they couldn't get any non-vegetarian food. It's all meat. So Shakyamuni Buddha advised his other monks that what you need to do is that you rinse all the sauces in the water, and you still eat the meat. But just don't think about that. Don't cling to the flavor or to the taste of meat. Yeah, because we need to survive. But in that circumstances, only meat was available, and they were offered to us, and we should not just throw them away.
Yeah. Although, I mean, yeah, so they in that case, right, they didn't really have a choice. I mean, as cultivators then, they just beg for alms, beg for food, and so they eat whatever they get. Today, it's different. I mean, people make that excuse today, say, oh, I go to a party and they offer me meat, and so I have to eat it. We have a choice today, actually. We can avoid it, right?
Especially in New York City.
Yeah.
So many vegan restaurants.
Sure, yeah. But even if we go to, some friends or a social occasion and that's all there, I mean, I don't think it's so bad to either, to skip the meat and then just eat some of the side dish or something else. It's not that big a sacrifice, really. I mean, so, yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, we have to be true to ourselves, okay? True to ourselves, and make sure our conscience, right? Listen to our conscience. What does our conscience say that we should do? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then perform meritorious deeds and establish virtues. Yeah. So that's the important thing. That's how we can transform our lives, our destiny, and ultimately, the more merits we have, of course, not just helping us, but also again our ancestors and descendants. They all benefit from that. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so the goals of learning, cultivating, teaching, propagating. Okay, so learn, wait a minute. Let's see. Oh, okay. Learn Tao up to the moral standards of the holy sages, right? Cultivate Tao to accommodate everything like Maitreya. Yeah. Right, so we want to learn as much as possible. I mean, the holy sages, yeah, it's like, well, it's hard to, try and think that, we can be at that level. But at least, when we try our best. We should try our best. Don't think that, I can never be like that, like a saint or something like that. Once we do that, that's a mental obstacle. That becomes a mental obstacle, prevents us from achieving that. All right. But remember, we all have the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is equal, okay? It's the same for everyone, same for the sages, the saints, the Buddhas, and us. And so we all have that same potential. It's just that some of us, we have greater obstacles, okay, that we have to overcome. But we can, if we put our mind to it, we can still achieve the same level, okay? So don't let that stop us, all right? And then we have to cultivate, accommodate everything like Maitreya, right? Maitreya Buddha, happy Buddha, he is the epitome of, tolerance, of forgiveness, of, accepting everything. And so we should learn to be that way. Then when you can do that, that's like, what Jesus said, turn the other cheek, or, all that you would never get into a situation where you're creating bad karma, okay, right? Because you always... you happily accept whatever comes to you. If other people, they treat you badly, but you don't react in a normal way, right, in anger or anything like that, or try to treat them in kind, then you don't create any kind of karma there, all right? So that's important. So teach Tao thoroughly to its true meaning, the profoundness of the Tao, okay, and propagate the Tao until it is everywhere. Right? So we try to get below the surface meaning of a lot of the scriptures and teachings. All right? We have to get to that underlying truth. Once we can do that, then, that kind of differentiates, again, what Tao and religion for the most part. Okay, so we have to dig deep to get to the true meaning. And then practice Tao until all beings of the three realms are saved, right? Because we're living in this time period, the white era, the white period, where the Tao is propagated. Anyone who has the affinity can receive the Tao. Anyone can cultivate. So especially, you know, like women today, right? There are more. It's like, you know, quite a few more who receive the Tao and can cultivate because they didn't have that chance in past lifetimes. So, but not only humans, right? So this again, because during this time our ancestors can benefit. So spirits in the underworld, or even as devas, which are in the celestial heavens, what we typically call as saints, they can also receive the Tao through uplifting. Okay, we can uplift their soul, but we need a lot of merit to do that. Okay, so but this is a time period where even those spirits can also receive the Tao, be uplifted. Okay. Because we're nearing the end times, and so in the end, in the greatest calamity, the final calamity, you know, even they will be affected, okay, in the spirit realms, okay. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, so learning Tao is in our daily lives, right? Cultivating Tao is with our hearts and minds. Teaching Tao is from our Buddha nature. Yeah, Tao is, you know, it's everywhere, okay? It's everywhere. I mean, if we can see that, then we can learn a lot. And you know, in everyday life, as we deal with things, you know, we can see, oh, the Tao is here, so I can learn something from that. But you know, we have to kind of not take things for granted. When we start taking things for granted, then we miss these things, the clues. Okay, so we have to kind of view things with the open mind, with that clarity of mind, kind of like a child, really. The way a child looks at the world, right? Then wow, they start learning. That's how they learn. Okay, and then cultivating Tao is really, it's in our heart and mind. Okay, so and we're changing everything starts in our mind, really. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get back and understand our own mind, and how we can correct it so that we are following our true nature, our Buddha nature. Okay. And so teaching Tao is also from our Buddha nature. So not just, okay, so like today, you know, obviously I didn't prepare for this, but hopefully, you know, it's like stuff is just coming from my Buddha nature telling me what to say, rather than basing it on, I'm looking at this, you know, this text here, and reading it. So yeah, it comes out naturally. And so ultimately, if it's coming from the Buddha nature, I mean, I've had experiences during the Dharma class, you know, giving a topic, and, you know, I'm not even, my mind is blank. I don't know what I'm going to say, and yet, you know, the words come out. And so it's the Buddha nature talking, okay? So that's what, you know, we want to do, all right? So propagating Tao is with the Sangha, okay, the temple. The practicing Tao is through ourselves by our words and actions, okay? So obviously we have a community of Tao members who, you know, we're the community of cultivators. That's the Sangha. Okay, so even though cultivation is a kind of it's a personal journey, but we can kind of help each other out, right? We can help each other along the way, because when one person stumbles, then we help that person get back on their feet and continue along the path, right? So when we help others, people will help us too. Okay, when we stumble, right? And so don't think of it as a very lonely journey. It's not. Okay, and of course the Buddha's, the holy teacher especially, he's always with us. Right? He's trying to help us, but we have to help ourselves. Okay, we have to want to help ourselves. If we don't want to help ourselves, then no one can help us, not even the Buddhas. Okay, so that's very important. All right. And of course, our words and actions. Okay, so the practicing of Tao. Again, always be mindful, be aware of what we're about to say and what we're about to do, and make sure that we don't create conflict. Okay, we want to try to be as harmonious as possible at all times, even when there's disagreements, things like that. But we try to one of the things is that we try to dissolve that, try to, and also compromise. Sometimes we may have to compromise and try to turn things around, turn things around that when there's a potential conflict, turn it into a harmonious situation, if possible, right? Okay, so that's again, we have to use our wisdom to do that, okay? Yeah.
Something. I think I remember it was from last Dharma class last May. Holy teacher also said that we are all like a walking temple. That's what the last one says about. So we have to manifest out in our speech and in our conducts. Yeah. And Holy teacher also talked about conducting a class. We thought conducting class only happens behind the podium, but actually, especially senior staff member or lecturers or speakers, for example, whatever they do, everyone's watching. So we are like showing the example, or we are like teaching every moment in the temple, also in our daily life.
Yeah, it's teaching by example is more powerful, right? Because we can certainly say the right things, but if we don't do the right things, people see that, right? So yeah, just like Virginia says, it's not just in the temple, but outside, everyday life, at home, at school, at work, right? People watch our conduct and our speech, how we conduct ourselves. So that's all very important. So if especially if we're trying to propagate the Tao, right? They're going to see that, right? They're going to say, "Oh yeah, this sounds good, but how come you're not?" So we need to live it. Okay, that's the important thing. We have to live it. All right, be the Tao. So, okay. So here's a scripture from a holy teacher, right? To learn the Tao, we must learn these three words, right? The classics or the sutras, the teachings or the instructions, which is the dharmas and scriptures, and then example, right? So being a role model. We can't avoid that. I mean, it's people will view us that way, whether we like it or not. That we represent the Tao, and so we have to be live to the you can say live to that standard. Yes, that's what I was trying to think of the word. Sorry. Okay, so the most feared three words are rejection, right? Avoiding responsibility, delay, procrastination, putting off, or being disorganized. Okay, so rambling, incoherent. Okay, so yeah, we have to avoid these things. Okay, so a lot of people, we say, oh, they avoid responsibility because they're afraid that they can't do it. Okay, but again, every opportunity that we're given is, we should seize the opportunity. It's not like say, oh, I want to try to do everything, but we do things according to our abilities, and also we also want to learn more. I mean, it maybe it's something new I haven't done before, but I'm willing to learn, okay? So that's something that we have to learn to do. And also not putting things off, of course, procrastinate. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next hour or in the next minute. So live in the moment, be in the moment, and don't put off things that we can do now, okay? And of course, we have to be organized. A lot of times, sometimes we talk, we think we know, we're trying to tell people about it, but then we start rambling and talk all sorts of stuff, and they don't have no idea what we're talking about. Okay, so sometimes fewer words is better, maybe. Sometimes we try to explain too much, and it's like getting further away from what their understanding is. So again, we should not talk too much, and then so that way we don't fall into that area where we're not sure what we're even talking about. Okay. Okay. So to cultivate Tao, we must. Oh wait. Oh, this is okay. Another three. Okay. The three words. Okay. Admonitions or precepts and disciplines. The state of mind. And the perception. Okay. Wisdom. All right. So again, yeah, these are things that we need to learn. To be disciplined. Right. So that's why we follow these precepts to help us be disciplined, not just in our actions, but also in our mind, right? Our speech and mind as well. So everything is really, it's in our state of mind, okay? So if we have the proper state of mind, then, you know, everything follows with that. The perception, you know, our wisdom. Again, using our wisdom, try not to use too much of our, I'm basing things based on my knowledge and my cognition of how things, you know, how to deal with situations. Again, try to let go of that, and then don't be afraid that, if I let go, I have a blank mind, I don't know what I'm going to do. The wisdom, the Buddha nature is there to actually guide you, okay? And then so the ones we are feared most, I mean, we should avoid greed, right? Anger and delusion, okay? So these are the three poisons. You know, so we talked about the greed this morning. Anger, again, anger is see, these three poisons, they're the roots, you can say they're the roots of evil, okay? So, and if we have any of these, you know, we cannot become a Buddha or saint. We would end up being an asura, okay? So anyways, but yeah, those are the things three things that we definitely need to get rid of, okay? So, you know, the discipline can help us, you know, with the greed, or, you know, being charitable, that helps. Anger, of course, I don't know, we try anger management or things, whatever, okay? So, and then ultimately, you know, and delusion, okay, or illusion, or ignorance, okay? So, you know, ultimately we need to kind of self-reflect and get rid of that ego. The ego is really the source of all these things. So we need to kind of let go of the ego so that we can kind of get rid of these three poisons, all right? And so,
Actually, this 6 words, the concepts were brought up during the channeling of this Dharma class. Yeah, Little Prince said that if we get rid of the 3 poisons, then we are far away from the underworld. And if we practice the first 3 words, the precepts, and then concentration and wisdom, then we are on the way to the heaven.
yeah, thank you, okay. Okay, I don't know, is there any questions? Because, okay, I'm not going to continue now because actually the time is up, and so, is that,
Okay, and next Sunday we'll be going over some of the scriptures from the Dharma class, so it's really important that everybody here today and those who are not here show up so that we could know, because the scriptures are done in Mandarin, and we need to know the explanation or the translation of the scriptures. So try to be here next Sunday so that we learn what the messages the Buddha's left for us.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I think. Well, yeah. I don't know, but. Oh yeah, I know. Okay, but anyways, all right. So if I had said anything wrong, I ask Buddhists for forgiveness, and ask for, you know, your forgiveness too, and kind of just not being prepared for this, but
Forgive
thank
you.
you. Okay. All right. So thank you.